They say the phrase, a wolf in sheep's clothing, came from Scripture, a warning about deception, about evil hiding in plain sight. But the story I found might be its true origin, the first account, a ledger entry from an abandoned village, tucked in the mountains of old Europe, a record written by a man of faith, a priest, one whose final act may have saved a town, or damned it. This entry was never meant to be found, and yet here it is, a warning, not just of beasts, but of the ones who wear us like clothing. The countryside was quiet then, rugged hills, low fog curing across sheep pens. They say the air always felt heavy out there, like the land was hiding something it didn't want to share. The shepherd walked those fields alone. No one remembered when his coat had frayed, or when his face began to fade from memory. Only that something about him had changed. The way his head tilted too far, the way his fingers twitched when he counted the flock. He hadn't come to Mass, not in weeks, and in a village this small, that meant something. Inside the chapel, Father Aldric noticed, a man of Scripture and silence. He paused mid-prayer, eyes lingering on an empty pew at the back, the kind of absence that grows louder the longer it stays. Later that night, he sat alone at the tavern, bread and stew untouched. He tried to eat, tried to pray, but the voices from the next table pulled him in like gravity. Stone walls, flickering candlelight, the faint stink of damp wood on a warm ale. 3 villagers leaned in close, a butcher's wife, the blacksmith, and a young shepherd's apprentice. Their words came like a slow leak in the roof, soft at first, but impossible to ignore.
The dogs won't bark anymore. Mine used to howl at foxes. Now they just hide. One chewed through the pantry door and locked itself in the rib cellar.
Mine bolted. Took off in the trees after something. Never came back.
Maybe they're smarter than we are.
They were all beating around the bush of the real topic, the shepherd. Everyone noticed him acting differently lately, and how it was affecting the town.
He was always strange. But now he doesn't sweat. He touches skin. It's like he's been soaking in water. All soft and loose.
Aldric had kept his distance, at first, but the words were too strange to ignore. Something in them stirred a memory, or maybe a warning, and before he realized it, he was also speaking.
You've touched him, then? Recently?
Oh, not like that, Father. Don't go putting it into the next sermon. He came into the shop last week. Bought liver. It was raw. I handed it to him, our hands crushed. I swear, it felt like I touched something dead.
I saw him last night, and the shadow was wrong. I swear it moved before he did.
You're certain? Could have been lantern light, or the drink.
Father, please. I know what I saw. I was sober, and that thing that followed him wasn't just a trick of flame. I would have lagged behind him.
My sheep won't go near him. When he walks past the field, they bleat like they're being led to slaughter.
Well, sheep are sensitive to smells, to sickness.
No, Father. I've seen him near death. Seen him near wolves. This is different. They act like he's already got blood on him. It's not right for a shepherd.
Humans are good at lying to themselves. You can lie to your own mind. But animals, they rely on instinct. Truth. That night, Aldric listened to more than rumors. A woodsman came to him, shaking hands, full drink, untouched.
I saw the damnedest thing, Father. Forgive me. It was at dusk, just before the mist rose. It ran through the trees like a dog. It was way too fast to be one. I was bent the wrong way. It looked natural.
An animal?
Well, like any animal I seen. It had arms. I swear it. and he was headed towards the shepherd's house.
As any woodsman or hunter would know, it's not the way a thing looks that marks it as wrong, but how it moves. Then came the hunter. He burst into the tavern like a bad omen, mud on his coat, eyes wild.
Southwards. I found a buck, ripped open, guts pulled clean out, but not eaten. Like something was looking for something. His eyelids were snapped, eyes gone, just left there, like a bloody message.
That's what wolves do when they're hungry, not angry.
Some creatures kill for food, others out of fear. But the worst, they kill to see if they can. As Aldric stepped outside that night, he saw it, but just barely. A silhouette near the trees, still, watching. The shepherd turned towards him, eyes wide, too wide, like he'd been waiting for him. And that was the first time Aldric saw it. Not in full, but enough. Enough to feel that coldness in the soul he thought untouchable. That morning, a woman sat on the chapel steps, pale, crying, holding nothing but a child's coat.
My boy, just playing in the street. I turned my back to stir the stew, and he was gone.
Did anyone see him?
They found his spot near the well, but not him. No footprints, nothing.
When the land itself refuses to leave a trail, that's when you know something unnatural walks in it. Aldric began to ask more questions, quietly, carefully. The butcher's wife told him her son never came back from a delivery to the shepherd.
He said he saw something in the house. Said it didn't look like a man. He ran, but I haven't seen him since.
So no word of what it looked like. What had frightened him?
No, but the neighbor boy said he saw it. Said it looked strange, like something was crawling beneath the skin. Said it smiled at him, but not with its mouth.
Then he spoke with the gravedigger.
Sheep bones, piled under old elm. But some of them, they ain't sheep. They ain't too big, wrong shape.
Are you sure? Are they human?
Oh yes, father. Spines, ribs, fingers. And not all of them had flesh, and only bones, and these were human. You see something crazy, father. Don't let that thing touch you. It's all I'll say.
You believe it's a demon? Creature?
You mean the shepherd? Well, something's wrong with him. Something dark. Something unnatural. He might be possessed, father.
The worst monsters don't need to hide in the dark. They just need to learn how to smile. The town was terrified, not just of the shepherd, but of being next. And still, no one dared to confront him. They all thought the same thing. That he wasn't a man anymore. He was a man possessed. And everyone knew it. Out of the village, a woman was screaming desperately for a man named Eric. Every village had a watcher, someone who patrolled the edges, until the dark began to patrol back. She found his lantern, still lit, still warm, but no Eric. Just the lantern glass, cracked, smeared with something dark. The town gathered and the mayor had to speak. He stood firm, denying it, condemning fear.
I will not have this town descend into madness over shadows and sheep.
My son is gone. The butcher's boy's vanished, and now Eric too.
This is coincidence. Fear makes beasts of us all.
Aldric stepped forward.
Coincidence doesn't leave death lying around. It doesn't possess a man.
You're a man of the cloth, Aldric. You're a man of faith. Then have faith that this will pass.
Faith without action is just waiting to die with your eyes closed. That night, Father Aldric prayed, alone. But the candlelight flickered, and he knew something else was listening. And he made up his mind then. If he was to protect his flock, if he was to save the village, he'd have to face the one leading them to slaughter. If you're watching this, you already know. Something is wrong here. But don't look away. These stories, they're warnings. And if even half of what's in that ledger is true, then Father Aldric was the last line between salvation and something far worse. Help me spread the message. Like, subscribe, share this case with someone you trust, because trust might just be the first thing they take from you. Getting back to Father Aldric, he believed in signs, not the ones written in books, but the kind you feel in your bones. The way shadows move wrong, the way silence lingers too long. And something inside him whispered, "Don't act yet. Watch." The morning fog hung heavy and low across the village, like breath on a mirror. The shepherd moved through the square slowly, carrying a satchel of meat, his gait too deliberate, eyes unfocused. The sheep pens behind him looked less like pasture and more like prison yards. In the chapel, Aldric knelt alone before the altar, candlelight flickering in his eyes.
If I must fall, let me fall between them and the dark.
He rose and walked the pews, blessing each one with a small vial of holy water, his fingers trembling, his voice steady. He wasn't just praying anymore. He was preparing. A priest, yes, but also a sentinel. Outside, a child clung to his sleeve.
Father, is the shepherd sick?
Not sick, my child. Just lost. But even lost things can be found again.
But he didn't believe that. Not anymore. And he began to observe. From the shadows of the chapel, he watched the shepherd move through town like a man wearing someone else's skin. At the bakery, he spoke without eye contact. At the butcher's stall, his fingers lingered on the meat for far too long, pressing, feeling, testing it like he couldn't quite remember what flesh should feel like. At the tavern, Aldric watched from across the room. The shepherd sat hunched in a corner, unmoving, a slab of raw meat on the plate before him. He didn't use a fork. He used his hands, ripping, tearing, slowly and mechanically. Whatever had possessed that man's skin, it wasn't used to pretending. That evening, Aldric stood alone on a hilltop, watching the pasture below. The sheep scattered like leaves as the shepherd moved through them. But he didn't guide them. He circled them, stalked them, letting them panic, letting them run, only to snap back into position, like a wolf playing shepherd. In a small leather-bound journal, Aldric scribbled notes, details, patterns, warnings. He felt like he wasn't just watching a man. He was watching something play a role, and not doing it well. That night, the wind howled through the village. A storm rolled in. Windows shuttered, candles dancing violently. Aldric couldn't sleep. His fingers gripped his rosary like a blade, and then he stood, pulled on his cloak, and lit his lantern, and walked into the dark. The woods near the shepherd's cottage were slick with mud and soaked in fog. Aldric moved like prey, silent and small. And he saw him, the shepherd, dragging something into the trees, a bundle, human-sized, wrapped in cloth. Aldric followed, keeping to the trees, his breath turned to mist, his steps silent, his hands shaking. He thought he was prepared, a man of faith, trained to see evil and stand against it. But nothing prepares you for when evil stares back. Deeper into the woods, the trees thinned around a clearing. The lantern flickered. A smell hit him, thick, metallic, sweet. Then came the sound, wet tearing, crunching, slurping. He reached the clearing edge. The shepherd knelt over a bundle, feeding. Not just eating meat, but bones, organs, sucking down sinew like bread crust. And then the shepherd froze. He sniffed the air, slowly, deliberately. Aldric didn't move. He didn't breathe. Because in that moment he understood this wasn't madness. This wasn't just possession. It was hunger. Aldric backed away into the trees, step by step. The shepherd never gave chase, but as he turned to flee, a voice cut through the woods. Not a shout, a whisper, clear, calm.
Come to me, Father. I'm ready for confession.
That voice wasn't trembling. It knew. It had always known. And by dawn, Aldric stood on the chapel steps, robe torn, lantern shaking in his hand. The man who had left the church that night was a priest. The man who returned was something else. That night changed him. He no longer sought to save a man. He was preparing to face a demon. In times of crisis, men often turn to their gods. Father Aldric turned to silence, and then he turned to steel. Inside the chapel, the candles burned low. He stood before the altar, lips moving in one last prayer, but not for mercy, for resolve. No choir of angels answered, just the sound of distant thunder. Beneath his robe, he packed his tools, a silver blade, a vial of holy water, and a single parchment marked with sacred words, drawn in blood and ash. He wasn't just going to confront evil, he was walking straight into its home. The rain began as a whisper, then a hiss, then a roar. By the time Aldric reached the shepherd's path, it had become a downpour, a path of mud and rot, a path the others were too afraid to walk anymore. The house waited for him, not like a building, but like a mouth. The shepherd's cottage sagged under its own decay. Windows were black, no light within, and as Aldric approached, the door creaked open, uninvited. He stepped inside, lantern raised, breath held, and he saw piles of wool, slick with rot, bones arranged like offerings, and the stink, sweet, wet, but wrong, worse than death, older. Then he saw it, a shrine, but not to God, to something else. This wasn't a home. It was a chapel of hunger. Carvings lined the walls, etched with trembling hands, of a beast with a split jaw and curling horns, bowing men carved beneath its hooves. Then, a figure in the dark corner shifted. It stood, slowly, bones popping, limbs unfolding like wet branches. Its robes hung like a carcass draped over a coat hanger.
I knew you'd come. They always send the faithful.
You don't belong in this place.
Belong? Ha! I was invited, welcomed even, and soon I'll be adored.
His voice was now fractured, layered, echoing through the walls like a choir of mouths pressed together in mockery.
They'll call me in with prayer, with fear, and now I will leave them better than you ever did.
Whatever has possessed you, it ends tonight.
Possessed? No, Father. This frail human skin is but a mask. I am.
And then the mask cracked. Its skin rippled, twitched, then burst. The shepherd's jaw unhinged and split. Bone tore through scalp. Horns erupted from flesh. Its ribcage swelled, pulsing like a living wound. What stepped forward wasn't a man, nor was it a beast. Its true face was a horror. Goat eyes that never blinked. A snout like a wolf, stretched long with hunger. And where its nose should have been, just bone, hollow. A broken mask that watched you breathe. This was no creature of moonlight or folklore. It was much older. A chimera of hell. A preacher of ruin. Aldric didn't flinch. He flung the holy water. It hissed. Steam erupted from the creature's chest, but it did not fall. Instead it smiled, then lunged. Steel met claw. Silver tore flesh. But it wasn't enough. The lantern shattered. Flames roared across the wall.
I will not let you wear my skin.
No. You give it to me.
Aldric plunged the silver deep into the beast's throat. It recoiled, howling, voice thick with static and flame. But it didn't scream. It laughed. The fire surged behind them, crawling across the walls like living tongues. Aldric stumbled back, coughing, barely able to see.
You'll burn here with me. This place. We die tonight.
No, Father. You will live on through me, and I through you.
Its voice, now cracked and eternal, wrapped around him like smoke.
If you think fire is going to stop me, you've forgotten the words from your so-beloved book. I am born of flame and fire, and tonight you will be too.
The house burned, and nothing screamed, only laughter, low and endless. The rain passed, but something stayed in the air. Not mist, not smoke, something heavier. On that Sunday morning, sunlight broke through the chapel windows. Golden, warm, pure. And yet, not one soul in that village felt at peace. They came to pray, not out of faith, but out of fear. Some said it was grief. Others couldn't say why. But they knew. Something had changed. The chapel doors creaked open, and there he stood, Father Aldric, his head bowed in reverence, his robes charred and singed, his face thinner, paler, but smiling. Not a joyous smile, not even a peaceful one, a smile carved into flesh. He stepped up to the pulpit. Not a single word was spoken, just the low scrape of his boots on an old stone floor.
Let us pray.
They say the sermon that followed was beautiful, that it brought stillness to the soul. The shepherd was gone, but something new had taken his place. Something that didn't just crave flesh, it craved faith. The flock never knew the wolf was already among them. Now you might be asking yourself, why pull such a dated story from the archives? Well, that old saying about the past coming back to haunt you, it's not just a saying. I've recently obtained footage that put me on the search, and what I found was far worse than I expected.
Sometimes you've got to send the word out again. Remind the world who's really listening.
Project Enoch isn't just real. It's organized, powerful, and whatever they're doing, they've only just begun. But so have we. If you've made it this far, you're one of us, and I want to hear from you. I read every message, every warning, every theory you send. I'm not just broadcasting these stories. I'm listening for signals. So if you've seen something, if you've felt something, drop it in the comments below. Let the others know they're not alone. And like and subscribe. Share this case before it's buried for good. And remember, it's true if you believe it.